Today we're going to look at one of my favorite poses, Gomukhasana or cow face. This pose is a wonderful release for the hips, thighs, and ankles, and can also be used to open up the chest and shoulders. There are a couple of different ways to get into it and several variations, so let's go ahead and explore this pose. Okay. We'll begin in a seated position with feet out in front and knees bent. Take your left leg and bend it under your right leg so your left foot comes in snug next to your right hip. Your left knee should be pointing about straight ahead. Okay. Now you can take your right leg and cross it over to the left side. For many people, this may be quite enough, and you can just sit up tall here and breathe into that hip stretch. If you're ready to continue the journey, you can bring that right foot back by your left hip and stack your knees on top of each other. Your feet should be about equidistant from your hips, so if you need to adjust that, you can lift in and up from your core to bring yourself forward and kind of shuffle your feet out. While we're up here, let's take a look at another way to get into this pose. Okay. That'll be from tabletop position. So go ahead and carefully uncross and meet me in tabletop position. And to get into the pose, we're basically going to do what we just did in reverse. So we'll bring our right knee forward and snuggle the left knee into that pocket of the right hip. And you can bring your feet about as wide as your yoga mat and mindfully sink yourself back onto your sit bones. And again, if you need to adjust your feet, you can come forward and shift your shins forward however much you need to get your feet about equal distance. So those are two ways to get into it. I find the tabletop version a little bit easier for myself, but please choose whatever way works best for you. Now, if you're wondering why this is called cow pose, you can go ahead and take a look down, and you might see your feet as little ears and your knees as the face of a sweet, sweet cow. And that's why it's called cow pose. Now, you can sit here with your palms resting on your feet, or you can go ahead and take a shoulder bind for a deeper shoulder stretch. To get into that bind, we'll lift our arms overhead, take your hands out to a T, flip your right palm so it's facing the back of your yoga mat, and bend your right elbow, bringing your right hand to your spine. Now take your right pinky and snuggle it up in between your shoulder blades. Now you can bring your left arm overhead, bend the elbow, and reach the fingertips towards each other. They may not reach, mine don't, maybe they will someday. Wherever you are, take a deep breath in, sucking your belly button in and up, lengthening your spine, opening your chest, gazing forward. Now you can stay here and breathe, or if you'd like a deeper hip stretch, you can add a forward fold, leaning forward over your knees. You can do this with the shoulder bind and you'll get a deeper stretch on that right shoulder, or you can mindfully release the bind and walk your hands forward, sinking over your knees. Wherever you are, bring the breath, find those tight spaces, and think about sending the breath into those tight spaces, whatever that means for you. On your next inhale, gently bring yourself back up. We'll meet our friends here in our seated position. Now, to get out of this pose, again, there are a couple of options. The first thing we can do is lean back, again mindfully, keeping our chest open, and uncross our legs. From here, you can come into the pose on the other side in whatever way you prefer. Or if you want to do a little dance with me, we'll come back into the pose with the right leg on top. Sit. Good girl. Okay. So we're in the pose with our right leg on top. We'll bring our arms up and overhead. Twist to the left, landing our palms just behind us. And again, we're gonna lift up from the core. Our booty rises up. We're keeping our feet where they are. We're dancing all the way around, walking our hands until they come in front of us, and mindfully sinking back down into Gomukhasana on the other side, making whatever adjustments you need to bring your feet about equal distance from the hips. Now again, we can stay here. If you did a shoulder bind on the other side, you may consider doing one on the opposite side here. So that would look like arms coming overhead, arms to a T, left palm flips facing the back of the mat, bends up between the shoulder blades, wiggling our pinky fingers. Right arm comes overhead, bending the elbow, reaching towards the fingers. Maybe your fingers meet on this side, maybe not. And while we're on the topic, you may notice that your hips feel very different on this side from the other side. So please listen to your body and choose whatever variation feels best for you. Again, if you want a deeper hip stretch, you can add the forward fold element, either with the shoulder bind or without. Find your breath. Breathe into your hips, into your shoulders, along the length of your spine. And on your next inhale, catch that wave. Unrolling back up to the seated position. Leaning back, keeping your chest open, uncrossing the legs, and coming to a comfortable seat. And that was a fun exploration of Gomukhasana, also known as cow face.